Hey guys, how's it going? It's Mr. Joe. We're doing an online lesson today, a video lesson regarding Rome. That is what won out on the poll that was put on the band page. We're going to do a little bit on ancient Rome. Rome is a huge topic, and it would be impossible to do justice, even probably in a semester. So we're going to just talk about some specific aspects of Rome and some of the things that are more widely known about it and a little bit more interesting. Try not to overwhelm you guys. So today we're going to talk about mainly the Roman Colosseum and its effect that it had on the world at the time. And I think you guys are going to really dig it. And if you want to continue to do things on ancient Rome, you can comment on the band page after you watch the video and do the quiz, and we can continue on. Otherwise, we can move on to something else. But I think you guys are going to dig it. So let's go ahead and begin. When we talk about Rome, Rome is a city in Italy. However, ancient Rome, a long, long time ago, was a huge empire. And you can see here by this map that it started out in the deep red colors. And as it gets a little bit lighter and changes the colors, it spread out into the entire area here was known as the Roman Empire. And it was vast. It was a very large empire that spanned a lot of now different countries and cultures and societies. And Rome itself became a entity, not just a city, but an ideal, you could almost say. The Romans, as we call them, did a lot of very good things. As you can see here, Roman innovation. They had a lot to do with politics. They had running water. They built roads. They had medicine. They had sanitation. They were very, very well known for their engineering. They actually invented concrete, a form of it. But if we need to talk about Rome, we need to talk about kind of how it started, and just really quickly, a really cool story about the founding of Rome. Legend says that two brothers who were abandoned when they were just babies were found by a female wolf and raised by that female wolf. Those brothers were named Romulus and Remus, and the name Rome comes from the brother who founded the city, who was Romulus. So they were the original founders of Rome, and that's a pretty cool story. That's, of course, a legend. We don't know if it was true, but the people who live in Rome have a lot of those statues that depict the two baby brothers and their she-wolf mom. Never know when you might need to know that information. So again, we're talking about a vast empire that had a lot of innovation, raised by, or it began by a couple brothers who were raised by a wolf, probably, maybe, who knows. And they were really, really good at engineering. They were building stuff. And again, I said they invented concrete, and they put it to good use. So here's just a couple examples. As you can see, I'm really excited about Roman history. It's one of my things I really, really enjoy. Here on the left, all the way over, is the Roman Colosseum. It's a pretty picture of it. We're going to talk mainly about that today. Here is the Pantheon in the middle here. It's actually one of the oldest temples in the world. You can't see it. If you Google it, Pantheon, Pantheon in Rome, you'll see there's behind this there's a big dome. You can't really see it. And in the middle there's a circle, a big huge hole. It's called the oculus. And the Romans, they invented the arch, and you can see the arch here in the aqueducts. And they used this technology to build different kinds of buildings, and they learned how to build up and higher. You can see the arches in the Colosseum over here. This picture here is of an aqueduct. An aqueduct is a way of bringing water to a city, and the Roman aqueducts were magnificent. They're hundreds of miles of aqueducts that would take water from the mountains and gradually downhill send it to the city of Rome for running water in the fountains of Rome. So people of Rome, which at the time had about 1 million people, which is crazy, had running water, fresh running water. And that water is still, the people of Rome today still can drink out of that water. And if you go there, there are fountains and springs there that you can drink from, and it's perfectly clean and it tastes fantastic. Very cold. It's very good. So again, they were really, really ahead of your time. This is, remember, a couple thousand years ago, these guys were developing things like this. At the bottom here, this is called the Trevi Fountain, one of the many, many fountains of Rome, and it depicts, I think, the god Poseidon. And if you, it's a very popular destination, and if you throw depending on how much money you throw over your shoulder or which shoulder you throw it into the fountain, will either bring you good luck, bad luck. It'll bring you back to Rome. So there's all kinds of legends and superstitions about the Trevi Fountain. And it's quite something. As a matter of fact, side note, over on the right-hand side here of the Trevi Fountain, there's a shop here. And it has great ice cream, you guys. Really good. And off here to the left, there's a blind walk to the Pantheon, this building here. So there's a path that's cobblestone, lots of bricks, and they call it the blind path because if you're blind, you can tell by the way the road is built by the cobblestones if you're still on it, and it'll guide you all the way to the Pantheon over here. So pretty neat stuff. All right, so let's go ahead and move on. Let's talk about the Colosseum. The Colosseum was a huge, is an enormous amphitheater or Colosseum where people would gather. A lot like the stadiums of today, equal in size to a lot of them, bigger than some of them, and had quite the impact on the ancient world. You can see this is an older photo, but you can kind of see where it was circular, had been destroyed. We're going to talk about that in a little while, and the arches and the inside and all the seating of the Colosseum. It was also known as the Flavian Amphitheater. That's what they kind of called it. It took about 10 years to build, you guys, so it didn't take too long between the years of 70 and 80 AD. So that's after Christ. So it took about 10 years, and a guy by the name of Vespasian, he was the emperor, he was the leader of the Roman Empire at the time, and he was the one who started the building of the Colosseum. He wouldn't see it completed. He passed away before it was finished, but he was the one who began its construction. And it could hold between 50,000 and 80,000 people, with an average attendance of about 65,000 people. And that is a lot of people in one area here. And that rivals our stadiums today. NFL games, baseball, some of those stadiums that we have now hold about 100,000, but not bad for a 2,000-year-old building, right? And they say that it could be totally empty. They could have everybody out of this place in 15 minutes. You see all these arches and these doorways and these exits and entrances. Again, it was quite something. And today it's still amazing to see it. So one of the really cool things about the Colosseum is that, as I said, here's an ancient dome. It had a retractable roof. Now I know you're probably thinking that's just nuts, but it's true. They had these areas, these pulleys on top of the Roman Colosseum. This is all it in its full glory here. That's what it would have looked like. And they had all this cloth that was strung up here, like sails on a ship. And as the day came on and the sun was moving, they had Roman sailors, people who worked on the boats and in the Navy, the Roman Navy, to work these pulleys, and they would put shade in some areas or sun in other areas. So yeah, it had a retractable roof. It kind of was like a dome. And 2,000 years ago, domed stadiums. These guys knew how to have fun. So, what was its purpose? Why did they build it? Well, the Roman people loved their games. It's a lot like, Americans like football and baseball and basketball and wrestling. People back then, they enjoyed games like that as well. However, these games were exceedingly more violent. Um, they they had gladiator games, as you can see here, as movie from the movie Gladiator, and this is more of an accurate description of an actual gladiator. They fought animals, they fought each other. They had sea battles. Yes, I know what you're thinking. Yes, they had sea battles. They flooded the Colosseum, and we're going to talk about that later. They brought in boats, and they had sea battles. It's really cool, you guys. Um, and they had games for days and months, and it was a way for the people to enjoy themselves, but it was also a way for the emperors to take any kind of attention off of them and onto the games. So there was a dual purpose for these games. Now, a lot like today's games, when you go to a basketball game or a football game, they also had people who served food and drinks up and down the stairs in the aisles, just like we do today. I don't think they were throwing peanuts at people, but hey, they would have food and drink of the day to help out the spectators of the games. So this is an inside picture of the Colosseum. Once you get inside, this is what you would see. You'll see here on the left, it's all been destroyed, but these were all the seatings, and there's staircases and all this. People would sit and watch the games. On the right here, they've already kind of reconstructed some of the arena floor. So this is where they would walk into, where you would, if you were a gladiator, this is where you would fight or whatever. And down below here, you see all these areas. This is where they would keep the gladiators. They would keep slaves down there who they turned into gladiators. They kept the animals down there. And the stadium floor, the Colosseum floor, would have trapdoors. And they would open at certain times, and they would bring up a tiger, or they'd bring up a lion, or an elephant, or they'd bring up another gladiator, and it would change the way of the game. So they would have all this spectacle, right? It's like I'm telling you guys, it's like wrestling. It's crazy, and they would do this, all the time. And you can see here they're kind of just they aren't really trying to reconstruct it or rebuild it. They're just kind of show people what it would look like when you were on the floor of it. In front of all those thousands of people. Like I said, it's pretty magnificent. So, talking about the sea battles, yes, they did have sea battles. I know it's really, really weird to think of somebody flooding Papa John's Cardinal Stadium or the KFC Yum Center, but they did it. And they did it because where this Colosseum was built had a stream running underneath it. So the Roman engineers, figured out how to dam up that stream and divert that water into the Colosseum. And they had mock or fake sea battles. And a lot of times the Romans would redo a lot of their greatest victories over their enemies. And having sea battles like this was one of the ways. So spectators could come in and watch the sailors and the soldiers fight in battles on boats. Again, quite the spectacle for something that was a couple thousand years ago. This lasted for a long, long time, you guys. So, unfortunately, as a lot of things do, good things come to an end. As the Roman Empire grew and grew and grew, and more people wanted what it had, all the wealth and stuff, Rome was sacked by barbarians. It was destroyed by barbarians. And unfortunately, a lot of the damage that was done to some of these monuments. As you can see here on the left, this is what it would have looked like all the way around, though. This would go all the way around in its full scale. Now it's like this. Now they, if you go there today, you can tell that they're starting to try to put some of it together or show what it would look like. I don't really think they're going to fully restore it back to what it was, because this is kind of what everybody knows it as. And luckily for us as human beings, it's still there for people to go look at, and you can see it. It's something that was built a long time ago, still stands the test of time, and it shows how well the Romans were at with regard to building. They were fantastic builders and engineers. This is just one of the examples, along with the other things I showed you earlier, the aqueducts and the Pantheon and the Trevi Fountain. Those are all things that they're very good at. And again, if you guys want to know more about Rome, we can certainly do another video on it, and we can talk about some of the people who were there, like Julius Caesar and Cleopatra and Constantine, the emperor who made Christianity legal. Things like that. We can talk about the Roman army and all kinds of different things with regard to Rome. So let me know what you want to talk about, and we can certainly do it. I like making these videos for you guys. I hope you enjoy them. After you're done watching this, please make sure you go onto that link I sent you in your email and fill out the quiz. And I hope everybody's staying safe, had a fantastic Easter and a good weekend, and I'll see you guys later.